Hello everybody and welcome to Sheffield Library's Summer of Creativity. My name is Vicky and I'm project coordinator for an arts charity in Sheffield called Ignite Imaginations, and we aim to connect communities together through art and creativity, and that's exactly what we're doing this summer. Every single week on a Tuesday we will be bringing you a single creative workshop with one of our professional artists. So have a great summer, enjoy the summer reading challenge, enjoy doing our workshops, and we look forward to seeing you every Tuesday. So we're going to get started today. This one's going to get a little bit messy as we make our very own spooky creatures out of cupboard ingredients with Jordanna.
Hi everybody, my name's Jordanna. I'm an artist for Ignite Imaginations, and today we're going to be making some play clay, and then we're going to use it to make some spooky creatures. So we're going to need quite a few different bits of materials, but you should be able to find them around your house. You're going to need some plain flour, some vegetable oil, some salt, some warm water and a measuring jug, some mixing bowls, 2 would be best, some cling film to store your play clay in, and it'd be really good if you have some food colouring, but you don't have to use this, but it makes it more bright. And I've got a spoon for mixing, I've got a tablespoon for measuring, and then I've got a few different things here that we can use for mark making for when we make our models later. So maybe a fork might be useful, or a straw. You might even have some tools at home that you could use for making marks. Things like hair grips can be handy, or you could use bubble wrap, or maybe a toothpick. So whatever you might have at home might come in handy for when we're making marks later on. Okay, so now we're going to make our play clay, and we're going to need to start off with 8 tablespoons of plain flour. So you're going to need a tablespoon to be able to measure this with. And don't forget, you're going to want to wash your hands before you do this, and you might want to put an apron on or some old clothes. So we're going to need 8 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I'm using this big bowl to put my flour in, and then I'm going to put the salt in next. And I only need 2 tablespoons of salt. I'm going to pour that straight into here. That's about 1, and that's roughly 2. So there's my 2 tablespoons of salt. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix together the runnier materials in a separate bowl. So I need 60 millilitres of warm water. You might need someone to help you with this, help you measure it. I'm going to pour that into my small bowl. And then I'm going to pour out a tablespoon of vegetable oil into my small bowl as well. Put the oil in with the water. And then the last thing that I need to use is some food colouring. And I've got a bit of yellow here. I'm going to just pour in a little tiny bit. Ooh! And I'm going to mix some red into it as well, so I'll hopefully get an orangey sort of colour. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I've got my liquids in the little bowl, I've got my dry materials in the big bowl, and I'm going to mix them all together. I think first I'll mix my salt and my flour together before I pour in the runny materials. So there's my flour and salt. Here's everything else. I'm going to pour it in. Make sure it all goes in there. I'm going to be careful that I don't spill the food colouring onto my clothes or the worktop. And if you're worried about that, perhaps you can wear something a bit messy that you don't mind getting dirty. And then we need to start to mix it together. So here we have the wet materials and the dry materials together, and I'm going to give them a good old mix. And it will really need a good stir, because what we're looking for is a nice smooth consistency. And when we finish stirring it, it should hopefully look a little bit like this. So here's one I made earlier. And I have wrapped it up in cling film. I've taken the air out of it, squeezed the air out, and stored it in my fridge. And it can store in there for a few days. So when you've made your vampire or spooky creature, you'll be able to use this a second time if you like to make something different. So this is the sort of consistency that we want. So it's a bit like Play-Doh. So that's the sort of consistency that we want. So I'm going to see if I can do that here. And obviously if your mixture is too dry, you can always add a teeny weeny bit more water. Or if it's too wet, you can add a little bit more flour. So I'm going to give it a good mix here. And then after a while, it's going to be the fun bit. So I'm going to put my hands in it. So I'm going to get all the bits off the spoon. So this is why we needed to wash our hands before we started. And I'm going to get everything out of here. See if I can get it together in a bit of a ball. Actually, this is feeling a bit too sticky, so I think I'm going to need a little bit more flour. And just sprinkle it on top. I might even put some on my hands as well. Rub it on my hands. See, I told you it was going to get messy. And then pick it up and give it a good jiggle round and get it nice and smooth. If it's really, really floppy and it won't hold its shape and it sort of collapses, a bit like that, you still need a little bit more flour. So I'm just going to put it back in my bowl and pick up some of the flour that's in there. So that's feeling quite nice now. I think we're ready to go. So I've got some orangey yellow here and I've got some pink from last time. You can make it any colour that you like. You could even experiment with putting in natural spices like turmeric or paprika, things like that to make your colour. Okay, so now we're ready to make our model. So we've mixed all our different materials together. You might want to think about using a little bit of flour on your surface just in case it starts to stick. And I would really recommend spending quite a bit of time warming it up, getting it nice and soft and getting it nice and smooth. If you don't get it smooth, it has lots of cracks in it and it looks a lot better if it's nice and smooth. Now you might want to make just one colour like this yellowy orange. If you want it to be brighter, you're going to need a lot more food colouring in it. So the more food colouring you put in, the brighter it will be. Or you might want to make a few different colours and then you could use different colours for different parts of your spooky creature. So you can have a think about what kind of spooky creature that you'd like to make. You might want to make a vampire, you might want to make a monster, it's up to you. I'm going to show you how to make a little vampire. I need to get it nice and smooth, so I'm going to spend some time rolling it around in my hands. I'm just going to use the yellowy orange that I made today, but don't forget you can mix your colours up if you like. So it's nice and smooth now. We're getting there anyway, getting rid of all the cracks. And I'm going to start off by making the head of my vampire. So I'm going to pull a little bit off the end here. It is feeling a little bit sticky, so I might just get a bit more flour on it. You've noticed I've got some flour on my worktop. I'm going to roll that into a lovely smooth ball, ready to be his head. And then I'm going to get a bigger bit, probably about twice the size, something like that, for his body. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to roll it into a lovely smooth ball. Again, I'm going to use a bit of this flour because it's got a bit sticky. Let's see, that's looking a bit better, needs to be a bit smoother. Okay, so now I'm going to squish it into more of a sausage shape to make his body. I'm going to sit that on the table and I'm just going to press his head onto the top like this. There we go, nice chunky vampire. So now I'm going to need 3 more pieces from the rest of my clay. One for his arms, one for his legs and one for his cape. So I'm going to divide this into 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to smooth this out as well, getting that ready. And I'm going to smooth out the other 2. Okay, so here we have a vampire head and body. And now we're going to make some legs, and we're going to make them so that he hangs off the edge of a table or a shelf. So I'm going to split one of these 3 pieces into 2. I'm going to roll it into a sausage. Make a nice sausage shape. And what we can do is we can just tuck that under his body, hang it off the side, and if you like you could bend up the end to make a little foot. Like that. And we'll do the same with the other ones. We'll roll a sausage, and you could give him long legs if you wanted to, or you could give him little stumpy legs, it's up to you. So curling them up at the end to make his feet. He's quite a chunky vampire, this one. Okay, so now we've got 2 more balls. One we're going to use to make a cape and one we're going to use to make arms. So let's make the cape next. So we've got our ball shape. This time we're going to flatten it down on the table, like so. And going to cut it into a rectangle. So a rough rectangle anyway. I'm going to chop off the bottom and the top. The edges are quite straight, but I think I'm going to make them really straight by using a knife. Be careful you don't hurt yourself here. Okay, so we've got a bit of the play clay that looks a bit like fabric, and what we're going to do is we're going to curve some of the edges round to make the bit that goes round his neck. So this is going to go round his neck, and this bit can float out behind him when he's off making trouble and scaring people. So there we are, putting the cape around his neck. You can just press it on to make it stick. You could spread it out to make it look dramatic. So that's his cape. And then we've got his arms to do. So I'm going to split the last one into 2 to make 2 arms. And roll it into a ball to make it smooth. And then I'm going to roll a sausage. And the same with this one. Actually, I'm thinking the arm's looking a bit too big. So I'm going to change my mind there. I'm going to get rid of one piece and just use this bit and split it into 2. And then stick that down the side of his body. His hands are resting on the table there. And the same with this one. So we've got a head, a cape, a chunky body, 2 legs hanging off the side of the table. Okay, so we're going to put the marks on our lovely vampire here. Here he is, sat on the edge of the table. We're just going to use household tools to do this. So we're going to start off by using a spoon to make his fantastic vampire's hair. Very distinctive haircut that vampires have. So we make a nice curve with a point there. And then you could use a knife or something else to put some texture in his hair. They often look very smart, don't they, vampires? There we go. And then I think a fork would be really good for his eyes. Not a fork, a straw. So that could be the outside of his eyes. And then I think I'll use this just to put his pupils in there. And I think that straw would be really good if I push just the bottom part of it in, can make a nose for my vampire. Okay, and then depending whether you want to give him a frown or a smile, you might want to use your spoon again, so I'm going to give him a smile, like this. Okay, so now it's completely up to you what else you decide to do on there. You might want to put some little marks in there to give him some fingers. Like this. You might want to give him some laces on his shoes. So our laces go sideways, so I'm going to put some sideways marks. Might be that you want to give him some buttons. Buttons normally have 4 holes in them, so I'm going to put 4 tiny little holes, and then this bit's a bit fiddly. But you might like putting in little details like this. And you might even want to make him a little bow tie. So you could use some of your leftovers. Make a tiny little ball for the middle of the bow tie and press it on. Then I can make 2 other little balls the same size. Just flatten them down a bit. And put them on either side like this. You could even use tools to make creases in your bow tie if you're feeling really fancy. So there we go, there's our vampire. You might want to add some extra details to yours. You might want to give him spotty trousers. You might want to give him some fangs. Oh, actually, I might put some fangs in. I'll use my knife to make that. Well, there we go. I think he looks pretty good now with some fangs. So there we have our finished vampire. I hope you had fun making a play clay vampire and getting your hands mucky. I've got a few more suggestions for you, so you can make all sorts of other creatures out of your clay. You could make a witch's cat, you can make a witch, a spider, a zombie, a monster, a ghost, all sorts of other things. In fact, you could choose characters from some of the Summer Reading Challenge suggested books at the end of this video. So take a look at that and see if that gives you some inspiration for making your other creatures. So thank you very much for joining me. We'll be doing a video workshop every week throughout the summer, and you can join Helen next Tuesday to create your own story stones. So have fun.